Hey everybody, today's video is going to be on the Ontario Robeson heirloom knife. Not a lot of information on this knife here on YouTube, so I figured I'd get it for myself, check it out, let everybody see if they like it or not. I actually managed to score this one for $26 off of Amazon. It's very possible that this was a factory second because I'll show you a close-up in just a second. But I'll go more into specs in a future video. This is more of just a cutting test, so that for those of you that like to see the cutting test instead of just a plain old tabletop review, you get to see what the knife was capable of. This is basically a hunting knife for the most part because it's a broad blade. It's about 1.25 inches at its widest point, and it also has a trailing point. The tip goes up ever so slightly, and there is a slight swedge here up top, not sharpened obviously, and it doesn't go all the way to the top of the spine. So for legality reasons, I think if there's a beef about swedges in your area, then I don't think this one would even be considered one, because again, it doesn't go all the way to the top, and furthermore, it's not sharpened. Real quick, I gave these coats, the handles, a few coats of linseed oil. And I just rubbed it in for about a minute and I dried it, and then I waited an hour and I did the same thing again. And this is the portion I was telling you about, that it might be a factory second. There's a slight gap on both sides of the tang of the knife where the wood is. It doesn't show up anywhere else on the knife, so thank God. But generous size lanyard hole if you want to put a lanyard on this knife. D2 blade, it comes in right at a 4 1/4 from the edge of the handle scale to the tip. So without further ado, here is the Robeson heirloom knife by Ontario. Something else I forgot to point out, this is still the factory edge. I did not sharpen this myself. I thought that would be an even more fair representation of the knife using the factory edge. So here we go. Beets are pretty hard to peel just because the skin's a little tough. So I figure that represents more of a real life skinning scenario, You just got a deal. Who the hell would get a deal in the forest? You got a deer or something, stag, maybe even got like a possum or something, or a muskrat if you're up north. But here we go. So this is slightly longer of a blade than I'm used to. I usually use my Enzo Necker for this sort of thing, and that knife works really fast for this type of deal. That's why it's my go-to knife, but I wanted something a little bit bigger for those situations where you need a slightly longer knife for mostly slicing. Like if you're dicing up an onion, that knife is just a little too short to do that, and it's a little frustrating actually to do it with that knife. Because it's so thin, and because the blade is narrower than this, it's about 3/4 of an inch at its widest point on the Enzo Necker. So, and that one's also just over 1/8 of an inch thick. This one is right about 1/8 of an inch thick. But when you couple that with the blade height, it makes for a really nice slicing profile. And I'm glad Ontario did it this way. The thing about these broader knives is that they don't turn as fast as the narrower blades. Like a Mora, for the most part, is pretty narrow at 3/4 of an inch on my Garberg and also the Enzo Necker. So they turn a little bit faster in the hand to allow you to follow the curves of whatever you're cutting a little bit better. But this wasn't too bad. It's just a good slicer overall. I got quite a few more things to process on camera for you guys, so stick around for the whole video if you like. You can skip different parts of the video if it's taking a little too long on something. That's understandable. But I just figured I'd do a lot on camera so that you can see just how much this knife can do with the factory edge if you want to use it right out the box. So bam, some apples. So you can see, great slicer. Because again, it's just a very thin profile. You know, maybe you can see better from this. I don't know. There is a little bit of jimping right here, which does help if you know, you kind of prefer that on your knife. It's there if you need it. I'll just do 3. 4 is a little much. The Enzo Necker goes through oranges like butter. That knife is just made perfectly for this type of thing. But anyway, I'll show you how I do things. I try to keep the peel in one piece. If the orange is a little old, they tend to be a little crumbly on the peel, but you know, the rind, sorry, whatever the hell they call it. But yeah, if the blade is sharp enough, you can manage to keep the whole thing in one piece. Try to get as much as the this white part off. It's just better. I used to peel kind of like this, and I split my finger open right here. I can have like a really small scar, but the knife was just really sharp, so it was like the cleanest cut possible. And yeah, I never peel like that ever again. It was a folding knife too, of all things, but anyway, that's a story for another time. So since this is a 4 1/4 inch blade, it's a little, it takes a little getting used to, because with the Enzo Necker, since it's just under a 3 inch blade, I'm able to put my fingertip right up against the tip of the blade, and it just helps me really control these rolling cuts for when I'm following the profile of whatever I'm cutting. But this isn't doing too bad, because, you know, again, it's a thin blade. It's a generous profile on this. It's very nice. Alrighty. 2 down, 2 to go. But so far as a kitchen knife, I really like this one. I did a similar juice yesterday with slightly different ingredients. Still had apples, but I used lemons, used some celery, throw a little kale in there. It's the only way I eat kale, because kale is garbage. That's life.